before that, it was Chase Claypool. Before that, because he probably remembers watching old Steeler games on YouTube with me before he remembers watching real Steelers, current Steelers. So his first favorite receiver, and I'm very proud of this. His first favorite receiver is Lynn Swann, because we were always watching those videos. This is back when he was like 4 or 5 years old. He loves Lynn Swann.
Did you just have like the regular like game broadcast on, or would you turn on like NFL films?
There's some highlights. You can go on the YouTube and type in pretty much any of the great names like Joe Green, Jack Lambert, Stallworth, Swan Bradshaw, and there's like an individual video that comes up that's like about 10 minutes long, and it's just like the best plays from the 70s from that player.
Yeah.
So that's and then we also did watch some actual game broadcasts. I mean, there's some of the playoff games. Obviously, the Super Bowls are on YouTube, but some of the playoff games from the late 70s are on YouTube too. I'm telling you, you should waste an entire Saturday. How about this? Instead of watching Ohio State and Michigan in late November, because you know Ohio State's going to win, right?
I don't know about that. They lost to Oregon, and they didn't play last week. But
didn't Michigan just get their butts kicked?
By Illinois.
Yeah. Well, Illinois is decent.
Did you see Illinois' uniforms? They had they painted their helmets to look like leather helmets, and they wore like the uniforms that Red Grange wore.
Red Grange.
I thought it was cool. I thought it was awesome because I love like old football history.
Yeah, that's good to know. I think you're salvageable. So, speaking of Illinois, Dick Butkus went to Illinois. In 1 year, 1965, the Bears drafted Dick Butkus and Gale Sayers from the University of Kansas, 2 eventual Hall of Famers, and neither one of those two, they played their entire career with the Bears and never played in a playoff game because the Bears were so bad back then.
Yeah, but going back to what you said about Lynn Swann, the catch against the Cowboys in, I don't know which Super Bowl it was.
Super Bowl 10.
Where he is falling over the defender and he catches it, that is like burned into my brain. So when I went up to him on Sunday night, I was standing there, Terry Hanratty's right there, and I know that Lynn Swann's right there, and all the Pittsburgh media is going to see Lynn Swann. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, I want to get my few questions in. As soon as he was done talking to the other reporter, I went up, I was like, hey, I'm Brendan. I like froze for a second. I like put my hand out to shake his hand. And I don't want to sound like I'm like a fanboy, but I was thinking in my head.
I'm a fanboy.
I was thinking in my head like, wow, like this is really cool. I have to stay professional, but I went up, I was like, hi, I'm Brendan. And then as I like froze for a second, I was like, I'm here to help write for Steelers now. He's like, okay. And the whole time I'm interviewing him, just like, it's an out of body experience. I'm trying to like take a video of him because they want a video, and I'm like holding the phone there. I'm like, this is crazy. Then I went over to John Stallworth too, like just being in the same room as those guys. And I actually, in the post-game press conference when Tomlin talked, I was the last person to ask a question. And when I asked him the question, I like set it up because it's hard to get him to answer like an open-ended question. Or if you give him a yes/no question, he'll give you one line and that's it. And
it's like Bill Cowher.
I set up the question. I asked him the question, and my best friend texted me. He goes, I just heard your question in the Tomlin press conference. I have never heard you talk so fast in my life. I was like, I was nervous going out. Like, again, being professional, but I'm sitting there like Mike Tomlin, and I'd asked him a question before when I covered the Christmas Eve game. When you start asking him a question, he looks at you. It's like he like peers through your soul. It's like you have to remember what you're saying. Brandon Marshall was in that press conference. Did you see that? I posted on Twitter. Brandon Marshall, the old receiver that played for the Broncos, the Jets, he has his own podcast platform, and like his questions were actually really like elegant. Like he asked Russell Wilson a good question. Like he got Russell Wilson to open up about like what it felt like when the crowd was booing him, and then kind of go on from there. But yeah, I feel like the more I go cover those sorts of games, the more I'll get used to it. But like for the second time, I even walked in with a credential, and like my heart was just like pounding. I'm walking into the press box right now, so I thought that was pretty cool.
One thing I do want to bring up, just because obviously you're talking about what went on at Acrisure Stadium on Sunday, and you know all the behind the scenes stuff with the Hall of Famers and the greats from the 70s. That was awesome, but it was also awesome that the Steelers beat the Jets 37-15. And I do want to go back to something that question you posed to me and Jake recently about the subject was, you know, should you or would you give Russell Wilson a shot at quarterback, or do you stick with Justin Fields? And my response at the time was I would stick with Justin Fields. Number one, I said I think he's obviously more mobile than Russell Wilson, which he is. But I also brought up the fact that I remember saying this. I said it's not like the Steelers got Russell Wilson after 2 great seasons with the Seahawks. They got him after 2 bad years with the Broncos. And I actually checked his numbers. His 2 years with Denver, 2022 and 23, he combined for 42 touchdown passes and 19 interceptions. Those aren't bad numbers. Now, he only went, I think it was 11 and 19 as a starter. So, obviously, you're looking for more wins, but it's not like he went out and put up, like, Ryan Leaf numbers.
Yeah. He doesn't have the defense. He didn't have the defense he has now in Denver either, I don't think. Like, I don't know. I am encouraged by the direction that the offense is going, and in his press conference after the game, he finished every question, no matter what he was asked with, I think we can get better. This is, like, kind of just the start, which was his first start, so that makes sense. But I do think you kind of have to factor in, this isn't me making excuses to make Justin Fields sound better, but he, at one point, was facing a Jets secondary that was missing 3 of its 4 starters.
Right.
Sauce Gardner was the only one that was in there that was a starter. So,
and he was injured himself. He was playing, but he was injured. But I do think that the fact that Wilson, right off the bat, his first start as a Steeler, he was able to form that connection, that deep connection with George Pickens. And that is something I think the offense desperately needed. I will also say this, though. If something does happen with Wilson, look, I'm rooting for him now. We had this discussion a few weeks ago about, if you're wearing the Steeler helmet, I'm rooting for you. But if something does happen with Wilson, like if he goes down, I am confident that the Steelers can win with Justin Fields. It might be winning in a different way. Instead of winning a game 37-15 like they did the other day against the Jets, maybe they have to win a game 20-13. But they can win with either quarterback. I just think it's a different dynamic with either one. You put Fields in, you got more of a running threat. Obviously, you throw Wilson in, and I think he showed that he has a better touch with a deep ball. But again, things in this league can change so quickly. I mean, look at the week the Cowboys came into Pittsburgh and beat the Steelers. Then they go back down to Dallas and get thumped at home for the second straight home game. So
I definitely have to mention Antonio Brown being there the other day. His tailgate was scheduled to start at 4 p.m. So, me and my friends were me and my brother and our friend Carl all walked by at 4 p.m. and no one was there. So I'm like, okay. We went to our other friend's tailgate, right down the street for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm like, I'm going to walk back there. I'm going to see if Antonio Brown's there. I walk back, and a crowd is gathering, and, I get there right in time to be, 3 rows back of the gates. And he eventually, comes out and starts, throwing people towels and signing things. And I texted my friends. I was like, he's out here. Come on over. And I guess they raced over because they ended up being right behind me. And seeing my favorite football player of all time, never change. Antonio Brown will be my favorite football player. I don't care about the off-field stuff. He made happy memories for me.
Somebody say that people don't care about the off-the-field stuff with O.J. Simpson, too.
Yeah. Who's your favorite football player of all time, Lauren?
I would say it was Lynn Swann, and I got to meet him when I worked in New York at Del Frisco's. He was standing at the bar, and one of the guys I worked with, Mike, was a huge Jets fan. We always talked about football. And he said, turn around and look and see who's at the corner of the bar. And I turned around, and I was like, and I just stood there for a second, and then I looked at him, and I said, is this real life? And he's like, yes, I'm going to go introduce you to him.
He's dreamy.
And he's like, go around so you're on the outside. And I walked around, and he was in a suit, and he's a good-looking man.
Yeah,
And he shook my hand, and I think I was just like this. I was like, it's so nice to meet you. I turned stupid.
Lynn Swann is 72 years old now.
How about that, though? All 3 of us have a favorite player, and he's a receiver. Lynn Swann, Antonio Brown, John Stallworth.
Nice. Friends forever. It's special.
Who would Jake's favorite player be? I'm going to go out on a limb.
From the Eagles?
Let's say Randall Cunningham or something like that.
I think he's a little too young for Randall Cunningham's last year with the Eagles, I believe.
We should just call him and ask him.
No, he said not to call him.
Oh, we did say not to call him?
Yeah, he's...
Okay, sorry, Jake.
He said if Butler is on fire.
By the way,
but he said after today, though. He did say after today.
Jake is getting married this Saturday.
Yes, this Saturday he's getting married.
So he's off for 6 straight days. So
He's going to the chapel.
yes, he's going to. Or how about the YMCA? I've heard some people get married at the YMCA.
I've never heard of that in my life.
No.
What?
I'm not saying
I've
I
heard
would. I got married at a church. I'm just saying.
Okay.
You know.
Where would you want to get married at?
Where would I wanna get married?
Since you have a girlfriend now.
I do have a girlfriend now.
It's official, folks.
October 15th.
He finally asked her to be his girlfriend. Let's give it up for Brendan and Bailey.
I want to see you clap.
I'm going to put like a heart thing behind you in that.
Where would I get married? The 50-yard line of Exeter Stadium.
Oh, jeez. Here's the thing, though, and this is something he's going to have to contend with. Bailey is not a football fan.
No, she's not going to want to get married on the 50-yard line.
But I'm just saying, just
maybe you
in
have
your
like
relationship in
maybe
general.
you have your like the night before on the 50-yard
I'm in charge.
Oh,
Bailey comes up to you.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
She'll love that comment.
We'll
She'll love
see
that
about.
one.
I got your back, girl. He's not in charge. What are you talking about?
Bailey comes up to you the day before the game and says, Brendan, I want to go out to eat tomorrow.
Which game? Ohio State, Michigan?
Ohio State, Michigan.
Tell her you wait a few days.
Listen, I'm going to be totally honest with you.
You wait a few days.
I'm going to be totally honest with you. As a woman, knowing that your man, like that's like a big deal to him, that's a really messed up thing to do.
We've talked about the
like
turkey bowl.
it's not like a emergency situation. Okay, it's not like someone very close to her passed away and there's a funeral and he's like, I gotta watch this game. I'd be like, I'm sorry, you're not gonna come to my grandmother's funeral
How
with
about
me.
that, though? Okay,
I'd be like, and you're single now.
Let's
you know,
say
that's different.
it is a family situation.
Yes,
Funeral.
and she's like, can you please?
I bought her flowers last night, but
We don't care about the flowers.
if it was an emergency,
Yeah.
I would be gracious.
And you have a
enough.
little earbud in your ear.
I would like have the game on my phone, like
Yes!
I'm so sorry.
like giving the eulogy, like yeah.
Welcome to Eye on Sports, where we delve into the biggest Butler County sports topics. I'm your host, Butler Eagle Sports writer Derek Pida. Joining me are fellow sports writer Brendan Howell.
Today's episode is sponsored by Butler County Chamber of Commerce, Robert Stevens Custom Jewelers, R.W. McDonald & Sons Incorporated. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting Eye on Sports.
Are we doing costumes next week? I don't want to be the only one that walks in here
Oh,
dressed.
Yes. Do a costume. I'll do a
If
costume.
nothing else, I'll put on like eye black and a jersey. Come in.
I'm not going to do the full face because it's a lot. I like airbrush green on my skin. I'm not doing that.
My wife spent $40 on a mask for my son last year. It was like one of those Uncle Bobby masks, like mustache.
Oh yeah, you showed me.
And he
Wait, I got to look this up. What?
went trick-or-treating last year. It was kind of a warm day. And this mask covers your whole face. And he had it on for about 5 minutes.
Oh,
It got
that's
too hot.
terrifying.
Let me see.
Is that what it looks like?
Yes.
Yes, that's it. That's it. Yep.
With the big cheeks.
But I
That's
can't.
a
I
solid
can't.
mustache.
If I brought that in next week, I could not keep it on for 45 straight minutes.
You don't have to keep it on the whole time, but come in it.
I'm
you
buying-
can slide up on your head.
I'm buying Rambo Lion's Mane for.
We could stick it there on that little speaker thing. See this speaker that I have
Yeah.
right here with the bat on it and the little pirate's
I'll
hat?
wear the ghost face mask the entire podcast.
Okay.
Like, muffled.
You'll be like, this week's Beyond Butler. I don't know. He doesn't really talk, though. He has the thing that he talks into, right? Yeah.
I'm not gonna spend money on that.
Yeah.
I could have gotten Rambo when we went to Boardman for that card show a few weeks ago. There was a
Greatest day of my life.
hey, just wait until
One of
Friday.
them.
Just wait until
I
Friday.
was going to say, you've had more than that.
Steelers Super Bowl.
There was a little dog jumpsuit, like a Michael Myers jumpsuit, and
Yes.
and it had like the Michael Myers mask up, but he'd probably knock it off.
I had a date on Sunday.
Where do you guys go?
My dad didn't tell me about that.
You're hilarious.
Neither
Just
did
for
mine.
everybody who's listening, are we just like beating around this? Because I didn't put that in that episode. I cut it out.
No,
Well,
I mean,
you mentioned the joke with my dad, and I had to explain it to him that. So yeah, I'd say we catch everybody up on that.
Yeah. So apparently Derek's dad asked if I was single, and it's been a thing with us. We're joking around now.
it's a running joke.
It's a running joke. And so the guys like want to know about my dating life, which was non-existent up until about last week. So it was something that was trying to be set up for a while by a friend. And I don't like that kind of stuff. I don't like being set up. I'm more of a like organic, just want to meet someone and, you know.
I was set up a few times and it was a disaster.
Yeah.
An
And
absolute
it just
disaster.
felt like too much pressure. And that's how
Yeah,
I
it's
felt
like the
about
people
it.
kind of like pair together and they sit back and they're watching you like you're a tiger in a cage.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what's going to happen.
So it's like
Don't
this-
say that to her. Don't make that move. No.
or they're like, play hard to get. And I'm like, I'm 44 years old. Like, I'm just going to be me at this point. Wanted to take me to dinner. So we went to dinner. We went to TJ's Hideaway. And
I've
it was
never been there.
it was his first time there. And he was really excited because he had never been there. And he's like, it's really cool. You go down that road. He's like, and it's like Porky's. There's these neon signs. And I thought that was so funny.
Have you ever
It was
seen
great.
Porky's?
Have you ever? You haven't seen Porky's. Oh, come on, Brendan.
Bathroom scene.
Okay, if I'm going to watch this show on Hulu, you're going to need to watch Porky's. What was the other show, too, the other movie that he hadn't seen?
Breakfast Club?
No, well, if you haven't seen Breakfast Club.
I know
Goonies.
the gist of that.
He
I've
doesn't
seen the
like, he
Goonies.
just
Oh, he
doesn't
does
like
see
Goonies.
Hey, you guys.
Anyways, the date went really well. So,
We're happy for you.
yeah, you're good now.
I think we should get into the show.
Yeah.
I kind of have to. 3 games behind you.
We're going to stay. North Catholic wins first Whitbill. Let's try this again. I got to gonna back up. Huh. So North Catholic won its first Whitbill girls tennis team title last week with freshman Evelyn March providing the deciding victory at number 3 singles in a 3-2 decision over Quaker Valley. Also, Mars Girls Volleyball earns the number 2 seed in the Whitbill Class 3A playoffs. Brennan, what are your thoughts on either of these happenings?
Well, first off, the North Catholic tennis title. Jake's story that he wrote about that when that happened. I didn't really get to talk to him about that, but I like the way that he set up the drama of that match with the lead that he used and then kind of going on from there. I thought he did a really good job with that and kind of, if you haven't read that, go back and look at that. And with the Mars Girls Volleyball, the fact that they swept Freeport this year, as we were talking about earlier, I haven't been around that long. I know Freeport's been really strong in volleyball. I was kind of wondering, maybe you'd know this, when the last time they lost the same opponent twice in the same year was in section play. So I thought that was really impressive that Mars did that, and obviously they earned a high seed in part because of that.
Mars, number 2 seed in the Whitbill Class 3A volleyball playoffs, and Freeport is number 6. I can tell you that the last time Freeport did not win at least a share of the section title was 2004. So my guess is you would have to go back to at least 2004 to find a team that beat them twice in the regular season. Regarding Mars Volleyball, I've covered them twice this year. They have a deep core of hitters and a freshman in Gabby Weideman who is doing an incredible job at setter. In the game against Freeport, which was last Thursday, she had 57 assists. So this is a player who, luckily for Mars, she's going to be there for 3 more years, but she is playing well beyond her status as a freshman. She's really good, and any success that the Planets meet with moving forward, she's going to be a big part of that. Regarding North Catholic tennis, the girl who Evelyn March beat is a senior from Quaker Valley. So I know you said that Jake really kind of set the stage in his story. He really did a good job. But for people listening to this podcast, Quaker Valley and North Catholic were tied 2-2. Of course, if it's a best of 5, you got 3 singles matches, 2 doubles matches. Quaker Valley and North Catholic were tied 2-2 with only the number 3 singles match that needed to be held. And in that match, March, a freshman for North Catholic, played a girl who is a senior for Quaker Valley. Obviously, the underdog there has got to be the freshman. And the fact that Evelyn was able to pull it out, there's another. We talked about the freshman for Mars Volleyball. This girl for North Catholic is a freshman. And she just won a very high-stakes, high-pressure match. North Catholic actually starts the state tournament, team tournament today. That's one of the things we got to track down, by the way. Eric Solverson, the head coach at North Catholic, leading the Trojanettes to what is hopefully for them a run at a state title That's being held this weekend out in Hershey. Joining us today on the Eye on Sports podcast is Union AC Valley head football coach Dan Reed. Formerly the head coach at Keystone High School, Dan is now in his second season of leading the Falcon Knights. Dan, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Dan, your Falcon Knights currently sit at 6-3, entering Thursday's regular season finale against Reynolds, a District 10 team. What do you know about the District 9 Class A playoff situation? Is your team already in? What can you tell us?
I believe we're already qualified. It's really up in the air as far as how many teams end up going. As far as if I think they take up to 8 teams. So, but last year there were a number of teams that would have qualified but were under 500 and chose not to go. So you just really never know until you get to that point where everybody has to declare whether they're going to go or not, as to how it's all going to play out. And plus, I believe nowadays there's a committee that actually seeds the teams, the 8 teams or however many teams choose to go. So you really never know how it's going to play out.
Yeah, and so with that, what are your thoughts on the season so far, and who are some of the players that have your team going for a 7th win this week?
Well, I thought we've had some adversity this year, but I think our kids have really bounced back, and they seem like they bounce back when they have a bad game. It seems like we really bounce back, and they keep working really hard in practice, and that's really all you can ask, is to try to get better in practice each day, whether it be coming off a win or coming off a loss. And I think you obviously look at the obvious people would be Owen Bish leading the way both on offense and defense. I think he's done a tremendous job at the quarterback spot, and I've always said I think he's a unbelievable defensive back as well. I think then you'd have to point to a kid like Max Gallagher for us, who's a junior linebacker, running back, who's done a little bit of everything. He runs the ball, but he also catches the ball. He's probably our leading receiver, if I'm not mistaken, and leading the team in tackles and defense too. And last week, Owen Bish went down with an injury in the second quarter, and Max stepped in, never had snaps at the position before, and he really did a great job leading the offense. He stepped in at quarterback for us. So you'd have to look at him. And then I think Colvin Elliott has been a force offensively and defensively for us. He really brings a lot of physicality to the position, which is much needed. And then receiver wise, I'd say probably Aiden Fox has been our leading receiver other than Max.
He's very fast. I know that. Aiden Fox.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, and you mentioned Owen was knocked out of last week's game. Could you give us an update on his status there?
He is cleared to play. Depending on how much we play him is still up in the air, but he has been cleared. So he will definitely play, but he may play sparingly.
Dan, this is the 9th season that Union and AC Valley have combined to form a football team. Are the 2 schools also combined for football at the youth and the junior high level?
At the junior high level, they are, but at the youth level, they're not.
Okay. So once the kids get to the high school level, just because they have that experience of playing with each other at the junior high level, is there anything you believe that you or your staff have to do to kind of create team chemistry, camaraderie, a bond amongst the players, just because you do have players from 2 separate schools?
Mm-hmm. Well, football is a unique sport, and I think once you get in the middle of a season, you're going through so many things together as a team that I think that naturally builds a bond. Plus, nowadays in football, you're doing things in the off season all the time. So we do things as a group all the time, whether it be even running youth camps and things like that. We ran a junior high camp. We run a youth camp for both schools together, trying to get those kids to play a little bit together at that age. So yeah, it's definitely provides some challenges, but I think once you get into a season, you're going through so much together that I think they naturally bond together.
So as the season goes on, if somebody came in and they didn't know that it was 2 schools combining to form 1 team, there'd pretty much be no sign that these kids aren't in school during the day together.
No, I don't think you would be able to tell. No, we, they sit together. It's, I don't think you'd be able to tell at all.
Okay. So you played football union, is that right? I think you told me that.
I did back in the early 80s.
Who was the head coach back then? And I believe, prior to what we got now, it was the KSAC, and prior to that, it was the Little 12.
Yes.
So what can you tell me about playing at Union back in the early 80s, playing in the Little 12 conference, and who was your head coach at Union?
Rich Verdunis was the head coach at that time. There's a lot of legendary coaches as well, as far as Bill Eustace was an assistant. Randy John Harris was an assistant. Dennis Stewart. So they had obviously Rich Verdunis is a legend down there, but they also had a really, really good coaching staff as well. I also got to play for Don Stemrich, so I was really lucky coming up through as a high school kid. But the Little 12 was a little bit different. Obviously, you didn't have to travel nearly as far. I don't think there was as big a disparity between the size of the schools. And there was a tradition at Union whenever I came into 10th grade. They had some unbelievable football teams and just some unbelievable players. Now, when I was a sophomore, we actually went to the Little 12 championship game, and we lost to Brockway. But yeah, you knew it when you come in, and they always said that you had a 7-point lead when you win any game because you're from Union. So, but I think it only goes so far too. But
Yeah. And so when you combine talent and production, who do you say is the best player that you've ever coached?
well, that's a really good question. I would have to. I've coached for 35 years, so I've coached a lot of really good ball players. If you look at, I've actually coached two young men that had Division I scholarships to play college football. Tom Poor went to Miami of Ohio, and Adam Black went to Marshall University. So I think just if you're looking at kids who actually proceeded on to the next level, those would be two kids that were unbelievable quarterbacks. But I have coached so many kids, including two that are on my staff right now. Jake Weaver was a running back for me at Keystone, and Caden Rainey was a running back at Union AC. I actually sat down one time and made a list of I call it the all read team. And boy, I would take that team against anybody if you could put over the 35 years of all those kids.
Well, Dan, I mentioned earlier that you previously were the head coach at Keystone. What was your last year as head coach at Keystone, and what was your involvement in football between head coaching at Keystone and taking over at Union AC Valley?
I believe it was 2017, or I believe it was 2017. I took a year off completely, and then Brad Dittman had asked me to come down and be the offense coordinator at Union AC. So I think it was 2019 when I first started working at Union AC.
Okay. So obviously between playing and coaching, you've invested a lot of years, a lot of time into high school football. What does the game mean to you, and what has kept you involved all these years?
Well, I have a love for the game that's very rare. I just love from the technical part of it, the strategic part of it. I love that part of it. I love the physicality of it. I think a lot of kids nowadays don't ever get that chance to go out and let boys be boys type of thing there. And I love that part of it. But it's been the kids that have kept me in it. Sometimes complain about kids not working hard enough or whatever, but we always have so many kids that really work hard and really put everything they have into it. And that's really what keeps me going.
So, how has football changed over the years? What are some of the improvements that you like, and what are some of the improvements? I say that in jest that maybe you think football could do without.
Well, back when I played, you actually used a chicken wing because you weren't allowed to use your hands to block. So the game has, you can say it's blocking and tackling just like it was 50 years ago, and it is. But how you do that and the techniques have actually really changed a lot. And I think the biggest thing with the game is kids have to put so much time in the off season and work if they really want to be successful. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I notice. You can no longer just really show up in August and expect to have any kind of success. So I would say that's probably my number one thing.
Okay. Then how long do you see yourself staying involved in football? Is it pretty much just, at this point, is it a year-to-year thing where you kind of decide after every season?
I think it always is. I think as we talk about the kids having to put so much time and effort in, it's the same for the coaches, and there's very little time off. It'll start, right after the season's over with, equipment inventory and all that. And people don't really have an idea of how much time you have to put in as a football coach. So I think it is every year.
Yeah, and so dealing with a smaller roster than you would see in other parts of Butler County or around Butler County, what are the challenges of kind of the week to week of having that smaller roster and kind of putting kids where they need to be?
Well, that's a good question, because a lot of times, we'll have kids. We have 2 or 3 kids on our team that actually have 2 jerseys. And so they may be a lineman one week and a running back the next week. And that's just the way it is, because we're dealing with so few kids. So if you're trying to put kids who are ready physically to compete at a varsity level, they have to learn so much more, because again, they may be a lineman one week and a running back the next week. I think the biggest thing that is kind of a problem is that you lose JV games. And I really try to make a commitment to our JV kids to get 5 or 6 JV games a year. But, the varsity comes first. And if you don't have enough kids, you can't put those kids out there. I think we've had 3 this year. But what happens a lot of times is you may have 18 kids available, but there's only 3 or 4 linemen. So you have to cancel JV games, which I really hate to do. But that's probably one of the biggest things, because those kids need to play just as much as anybody did.
Yeah. So being a lineman obviously isn't the most fun job. You don't get a lot of recognition. So with that, do you kind of tell those linemen sometimes like, hey, you might have to step up and carry the ball? And what is the reaction whenever you kind of allow them to do that?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure that being a lineman isn't fun, because that is the fun part, just being together as a cohesive team up front. So I wouldn't want to tell my kids that being a lineman is not fun, but we actually had a couple plays in for a couple of our seniors last week on senior day, and Cole Wyant, who's our left tackle, actually got to carry the ball for a touchdown, which was kind of special for him to do that. And another lineman of ours, Quentin Hornberger, we tried the same thing with him. It didn't quite work because we had a motion penalty, but yeah, it's definitely fun. Those kids have been up front, blocking for people since they're 7, 8 years old. And it's nice for them to get a chance to carry the ball.
Then, this didn't used to be the case. Once the 2 schools combined to form a football team, both AC Valley and Union would host a few home games per year. Now all the home games are in Reimersburg at Viduna Stadium. Do you see support equal from both communities, Reimersburg, Foxburg? I mean, are the fans pretty equal there?
I think so. I think it's it'd be nice to get back to a point where we could actually be half and half with the AC Valley, because right now our kids are actually traveling for practice as well. So all the AC Valley kids come over to Union every day. And so I think there's definitely support from both schools. It would be really nice to see it get back to be more of a 50-50 thing.
Dan, we appreciate you joining us today. Good luck on actually Thursday. You're playing Thursday against Reynolds, and good luck in the upcoming District 9 playoffs. Thanks for joining us.
Yep, thank you.
Welcome to Beyond Butler, our weekly segment where we talk about something outside of Butler County sports, whether that be professionally or collegiately. This week, we talked in the opening a little bit about my opportunity to go down and cover the Steelers Sunday night game against the Jets, which was really exciting. I figured this would be an interesting question for Derek, and I know he's going to answer something Steelers related. But if you could go back and cover one sports event, Derek, what would that event be?
So I'm going to surprise you, because you thought I'd pick a Steeler game here. If I could go back and cover one event, And to me, I'm a huge Steeler fan. You know that. 6 Super Bowls. They've brought incredible joy to that city. But one event would be Game 7, 1960 World Series. Bill Mazeroski. I mean, aside from just covering it as a reporter, just think if you're a Pirate fan, if you're a hardcore Pirate fan and you're in the stands at Forbes Field for that game, it's David versus Goliath. The Yankees won 3 games up to that point by blowout scores. The Pirates won games that were decided by like 1 or 2 runs. And with one shot, Bill Mazeroski, who only hit, I believe, 138 home runs in his 18, 19-year career. So it's not like he was a power hitter. That city had to be just absolutely going nuts. And I would have loved to be there in that stadium for that game at Forbes Field. I would have loved to have covered it. But to answer your question, if it had to be a Steeler game, Super Bowl 14. Do you know Super Bowl 14 had more lead changes in one game than the first 13 Super Bowls combined?
I did not know that.
Super Bowl 14 is one of the most underrated Super Bowls of all time. And as a Steeler fan, I will admit one of the reasons that it was such a great game is because of the effort the underdog Rams put up. The Steelers were 11.5 point favorites, 11.5, 12-point favorites. And going into the fourth quarter, the Rams were up 19-17. But early on in the fourth quarter, the Steelers tried to play on offense that had not worked all week in practice. 60 prevent slot hook and go. Lynn Swan's out of the game. He got hurt. So the Steelers are down to Jim Smith, John Stallworth, and tight end Benny Cunningham. That's who they had to throw to. And they ran 60 prevent slot hook and go, and that's the famous shot from the game of Bradshaw throwing the ball and Stallworth kind of catching it over his shoulder, and the Rams defensive back, Rod Perry, literally falls flat on his face. He doesn't even break his fall with his hands. He just falls flat on his face. Steelers go up 24-19, end up winning the game 31-19. To me, that's my favorite football game of all time, and I wasn't even aware that it was going on. I was in a crib.
So mine would also not be a Steelers game. Mine would go back to we talk a lot about my Ohio State fandom here. The Ohio State-Michigan game in 2016. I'm not sure if you watched it. You don't really watch much college football, do you?
I actually watch more now because I'm friends with you.
Yeah, there we go. I've inspired you. But
you brought me back.
With that, in 2016, it was kind of Michigan's announcement, like, hey, we're back to being a respectable program. Jim Harbaugh was the coach at that point. They had Jabril Peppers, who was probably one of the best players in the country. And then they go into Columbus, and that game goes into overtime. And I remember just being on the edge of my seat the entire game, just with the leads back and forth. And there was JT Barrett's first down run that they're not sure he really made. I think he did. And they end up winning that game. I'll never forget the cadence of Chris Fowler when he says, Ohio State wins, as Curtis Samuel jumps into the end zone with both arms outstretched. Just coolest shot ever. So that is definitely the game I go back, because I remember even listening to the press conferences after, Jim Harbaugh was irate that run.
What year was this?
2016.
16.
Yeah. And I remember my family would go to the Spirit of Christmas Parade, and it's always the Spirit of Christmas Parade somehow is always on the Saturday that Ohio State and Michigan play. And my family's ready to go. They're like all packing into the car, and it goes into overtime. I'm like, guys, I'm not leaving. I was like, I'm not leaving. I'm watching this. And at this time, I was, junior in high school. So they're waiting to come to Main Street and stand on the street for the parade, and I'm like, I will not leave. I'm watching the rest of this game.
The Ohio State-Michigan game is always played the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And that's the day, traditionally, that the parade happens. So
Yeah.
you're just up Crap Creek without a paddle there.
Well, we don't go anymore. That was one of the traditions. We don't do that anymore. But I remember just telling my family, you have to wait. You have to wait.
Let me ask you this. You know that as much of I am as a Steeler fan of the current Steelers, I have a vast knowledge, as you know, and love of the Steelers even before I was born. Just I love the history, right? Do you pay attention? Do you read about do you watch YouTube videos on Ohio State teams before, like the 0-2 national championship?
I've watched that game. I know the story of that game.
Maurice Claret.
Yeah. Maurice Claret. I actually, anytime when we go to like those football card shows, anytime I see a Maurice Claret card, I buy the Maurice Claret card for 10 cents or whatever it is.
That was a great win because they were heavy underdogs in that game.
And that was another debatable win with a pass interference call that they weren't sure was really pass interference. They threw it after Miami ran on the field and they'd won the game. So I think I brought this in the one time. I have a college football encyclopedia. It goes from 1953 to 2009. And I spent my time, like as a teenager, a lot of my time, like going through that and reading that because there's 7,000 one or two paragraph game recaps in this. It's like a Bible. It's like that thick.
I think I have that same thing.
Yeah, the USA Today, I think it is.
Yeah, it has all the helmets on the front, all the different culture.
No, this one has like Tim Tebow on the front.
Oh, well, I'm glad I got the one with the helmets.
I'll have to bring you this one and show you it. But
you just got Tebowed again.
Yeah. For the second time.
I was actually going through it on Saturday when me and my roommate were watching college football and like looking at the way, because the guy who writes the recaps has like this old timey journalism. Like he was a writer that he like wrote more old time.
Grantland Rice.
I've tried looking up his, like, just as like a fan of sports writing, I've tried looking up like libraries of his writing and I can't find it.
Grantland Rice.
Yeah.
Oh.
I actually got this question. Derek.
Hey! I'm going for 6-4 today. 6-4.
I actually got this question from that college football encyclopedia book we were just talking about. So, this one we're gonna go with the Steelers theme as it's been. I mean, last week it wasn't. My dad was very impressed with you knowing the
Arnie Herber.
Yeah. So, everyone's heard the story of Johnny Unitas being in camp once for a spot with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and obviously you knew what he went on to do in his career. Who was the quarterback that edged out Johnny Unitas for the third-string quarterback spot with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1955 because he could also punt?
Okay, anyway, I get a few minutes to think about that one.
Yeah. You looked like you knew the answer, though.
I might. We'll see. I don't know.
If he gets this, I can't get anything past him.
Third-string quarterback. Okay. Now we have come to pick time, the last week of the regular season. Jake, of course, is not here, but he has left his dialogue for a few games and, of course, his picks. So we're still going to get his thoughts and his predictions.
He's also leaving his single life behind.
Scoop is attending Jake's wedding.
And we didn't get invited.
Are you serious?
Scoop.
Really?
Yep.
Who's playing him?
Wait, what? We're not talking about Scoop
He's joking.
on this podcast.
He's joking.
Get out of here.
Scoop doop da doop. Okay. Butler going for a 500 season. They are 4-5 right now, but they have an incredible tall task in front of them, hosting Central Clarion, the undefeated Wildcats, on Friday. Brendan, what are your thoughts?
I think we saw how Carn City fared against Central Clarion over this year. I think that Central Clarion is about as daunting a senior night opponent as it gets. I know my time I think we had Central Catholic for senior night once. I'd put Central Clarion right now right up there with them. I think Central Clarion wins this one, unfortunately for Butler, who ends their season with a 42-13 loss.
Okay, so Jake says it's been a great story. It would be a great story if Butler can finish 500 as an independent, but I saw the box score from that rout of Carn City, and Central Clarion is not to be trifled with. He's taking Central Clarion 35-14. As for me, I think the Wildcats, I know the Wildcats. I did the research on this. They've only allowed 33 points all season. They have outscored their last four opponents 228-0. Butler's size up front will keep this one relatively close for Central Clarion standards, but they still win by 16. I got the Wildcats winning 30-14. All right, a game I will be at, Freeport with a chance to win the conference title, the Allegheny 7 conference title, that is. They're playing undefeated Amani Christian. Brendan, I know you're a fan of the Yellow Jackets. Are you going to be disappointed this week?
As a fan, yes. Amani Christian has won its last three by a combined 179-6 count. Freeport will put up a fight, I think. But that sort of output, or that type of output, is not easy to top. I think Amani Christian wins 42-28.
Okay, so Jake says a win and a Deer Lakes loss would hand the Yellow Jackets the section title. That's right. I forgot to mention that. For them to win the section title, Freeport, they have to beat Amani Christian and also have Deer Lakes lose. But Jake says that the Yellow Jackets have to beat a prohibitive favorite that is 9-0 and is probably the best 3A team in the Whitbill. He's taking Amani Christian 42-20. And I say the Saints have scored at least 42 points in 7 games this season, just a bit too much firepower for the Yellow Jackets. I'm taking Amani Christian 32-17. All right, this game, we can't get confirmation on this because the wild card isn't going to be decided until all the games have been played. But I really do believe that Hopewell's game Friday at North Catholic is a game where the winner is going to end up getting one of those Class 3A wild cards, and the loser is going to be on the outside looking in. So, Brendan, is it going to be Hopewell or North Catholic coming out of this one with a victory?
North Catholic's defense struggled in the game against Beaver that I covered a few weeks ago. But I think that their passing game will carry them to a positive result here in what might be a de facto playoff game, as you said. North Catholic wins 34-12.
So Jake says a battle of two teams who desperately need a win to maintain hope of a Whitbill wildcard spot. He stole mine. That's what I thought. Trojans' defense needs to step up to pull off the win, but he's taking Hopewell 37-31, taking the Vikings. I say the Trojans' defense has given up a lot of points to the top teams it has played this season. Teams like Avonworth, teams like Beaver, Central Valley. Hopewell is a good team, but they're not at the level of those top teams in the Western Hills Conference. So I'm taking North Catholic to win in a pretty good game. I think this is going to be an entertaining one. 34-24 Trojans. All right, this game is being made up. If you remember way back in early September, that night where we had all the lightning and the rain, our own John Enrietto was at Karn City, and I don't even think they started this game. Just lightning in the sky, torrential downpour. St. Mary's was there that night to play Karn City. It got postponed. It's being made up this Friday. Brendan, do you like the Flying Dutch to come into Karn City and grab a win?
Karn City came 9 points away last week from scoring 60 for the third week in a row, which is crazy. Being that that was the case, I think Karn City has hit a steam, and as is its running game, I will not pick against the Gremlins unless maybe they play Central Clarion again. Karn City wins is 145-14.
So Jake says only 51 points from the Gremlins last week? They're slacking off. Kidding. I don't expect the Flying Dutchman to be the same kind of pushover as KC's last few opponents, but he's still taking Karn City 35-15. And for me, St. Mary's earned a 21-14 win 2 weeks ago against a really solid Du Bois team. Because of that, I'm actually picking this game to be closer than I originally thought, but I still got the Gremlins winning 30-16. All right, and we just talked to Dan Reed earlier. His Falcon Knights are headed to Reynolds. This is actually a game being played Thursday night. Do you think the Falcon Knights finish the regular season on a high note, Brennan?
Yeah, it seems even with that Owen Bish injury, as he mentioned that Bish is cleared to play this week. I think from the sounds of it, the way that he worded that, I think that they might kind of limit him in what he's able to play, especially being that this is a non-conference game. I don't think it obviously a win matters for momentum going into the playoffs, which he's pretty sure that they're going to make. I think that Union AC Valley still pulls this game out no matter how much Bish plays with Max Gallagher's talents and some of the other guys he mentioned. I think Union AC Valley wins this one 28-20.
This is from Jake. Reynolds hasn't been involved in too many close games, especially of late. I think Owen Bish and Max Gallagher can find the end zone a few times in this one. He's taking the Falcon Knights 35-28. As for me, Reynolds has not defeated a team with a winning record this season. And I think whether or not Bish plays obviously remains to be seen, but I think they're going to focus things on the ground. They got Max Gallagher. They have a couple other backs who can kind of gain yards on the ground and keep things on the ground. I'm able to beat a team focusing mostly on the rushing attack. I think that's what they're going to be able to do. And I'm taking Union AC Valley to win over the Raiders 26-20. All right, these last few games we are not going to analyze. We're just going to give the final score. Brendan, Seneca Valley at North Allegheny.
NA 34-7.
Jake's taking NA 35-20. I am taking NA 38-13. Indiana at Mars, Brendan.
Mars 35-13.
Jake's taking Mars 43-7. And I'm taking the Planets 50-8. McKeesport at Knock, Brendan.
McKeesport 38-20.
Jake is taking McKeesport 38-14. I'm taking McKeesport 37-14. Summit Academy at Shenango. Brendan.
Summit Academy 28-21. I've been known to pick them before and they come back to haunt me.
You're picking Summit. So is Jake. 27-21. I am taking Shenango 22-16. Ridgeway at Montauk. Montauk's last chance to get a win this year, Brendan. Does it happen?
Unfortunately, they go winless. Ridgeway wins this one 34-6.
Jake's taking Ridgeway 38-7. I'm taking Ridgeway 35-12. And the final game on our list, Slippery Rock at Mercer. This will be the end of Slippery Rock's season, but they have a chance to pick up a third win. Do they, Brendan?
Slippery Rock 25-13.
Jake is taking Slippery Rock 21-16. I'm taking Slippery Rock 17-13. So Slippery Rock, I just want to throw this out there. They have 2 wins. They have 10 starters who are out of the lineup right now. Their quarterback, Fred Campagna, their top runner, Owen Long's out. Their top receiver, Cooper Glass, is out. And yet we're all picking them. Because you know what? Those kids play hard for Larry Wonderuse. And I think finishing the season, even though they're not going to make the playoffs, I think finishing a season with a victory is important to them, as it should be. So we're all taking Slippery Rock. All right, remind our viewers what the question is.
The question was, which quarterback beat out Johnny Unitas for the number 3 quarterback spot in 1955 for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because he could also punt. That was the deciding factor over choosing a future Hall of Famer and legend quarterback.
Ted Marchibroda.
His name was Vic Eaton. He was a quarterback from Missouri. He was drafted in the 11th round.
I can't be mad about it. I mean, I never even heard of that guy. Whatever. Hey, Laura loves me. She treats me like crap sometimes, but you know she loves me.
Does that drop you back to 500?
Wait, what? Crap.
Yeah.
Well,
Making fun of my futility and trivia question.
You didn't get the.
Hey, you'll never forget.
You didn't
that
get it
one.
right,
You'll
so
never
you
forget
get the
that
trombone.
Oh, okay.
You'll never forget that one.
Vic Eaton.
Yep.
Do you know who Ted Marchibroda is?
I've heard the name.
He was the coach for the Colts in that 95 AFC Championship game against the Steelers.
That's where I know the name from.
He was a quarterback for the Steelers. His rookie year, I believe, was 1955, so that's why I chose him. But do you know where Ted Marchibroda is from? Franklin, PA.
Wow. I mean, the amount of facts that you are able to just drop is quite remarkable. But I will say this.
I've never met anyone with Derek's knowledge. It's like a
Neither have
historian.
I. But the segment is called Stump Derek. The whole point is for him to stump you.
Yeah, I'm at 5-5 now. I'm looking through the donut light, and I'm 5-5.
The donut light to the board. 5-5. I gave them my whole whiteboard. All right.
I'm at 500, which is more than the Pirates can say. So, we're gonna focus on high school football in Butler County here for just one more segment. Brendan, I'm gonna go to you on this one because Jake hasn't said much today. What matchup between 2 local teams on the gridiron, which is not actually taking place this year, would you like most to see?
So I'm sure that you could kind of predict my answer here. I am a big proponent of the Butler-Seneca Valley football rivalry, which was not played this year for the first time in however long. I didn't go back and do the research on that, but it's got to be a long time. Right?
Actually, I think 2 years ago, they didn't play each other.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there we go. Yeah, I think that those two teams, the neighboring school districts, both 6A, no matter the futility, I'll use the word you just used, that Butler's had against them in the past 14 times they've played, I would love to see, as a Butler grad, the Butler Golden Tornado raise that Eagle Traveling Trophy just once. We'll see it hopefully at some point. But that's the game. Seneca Valley was kind of down this year. They're going to make playoffs. Butler kind of gained some confidence. I think Seneca Valley travels here this year, and Butler might have had a chance.
2 years from now, when Butler is, as far as we know, they're basically being forced to come back to the Whitfield. This is 2026. There's only one 6A conference, so they would have to be in the same conference again. So you probably get your wish 2 years from now, and we'll make sure you cover that game.
I wanted nothing more as a high school than like be able to take a picture like lifting that trophy. Like I thought that would have been cool, and we never got to.
I'm sure we could arrange it where you could at least hold the trophy.
I could be the one to present it to them.
There you go. If you're covering the game, absolutely. I want to get your thoughts on this matchup. You know these teams fairly well from talking to the coaches, seeing the stats. What are your thoughts on a Freeport-Karn City matchup? I think that would be a pretty cool game to watch.
I think Karn City would probably have the edge there with the rushing attack. That would be a very interesting game. That was not one I'd expect you to have said. Karn City's a physical team. Freeport's kind of relied on being a physical team too this year. That'd be a bit of a slugfest. That'd be fun to watch. Two
schools that are in different districts, but roughly, I don't know, as the crow flies, maybe 20 miles apart, if that. Yeah. I think it would be a really good game. I think obviously Karn City, as they try to every game, they're going to try to establish the run. I don't think they would be able to do that as easily against Freeport as they did against Red Bank, which was kind of a surprise. I mean, I actually picked I think I picked Karn City to win that game, but I didn't expect them to go 67-7. And then they go up to Bradford and shoot the Owls. They took the Owls down. What was that, 65-6, I think it was?
Yeah.
So, yeah, Karn City's got a great running game. I think Freeport's defense, this year would pose a pretty big challenge to that. And also Drew Ross, the quarterback for Freeport, he is able to throw the ball. He has that ability. Last year he threw for over 1,000 yards. I think this year the fact that they got Amos Glenn, I think they are keeping things on the ground a little bit more than I expected them to. But Drew Ross can throw the ball, and he can also run it. He's a dual threat quarterback. And I asked him earlier this year after the game against Burrell, I said, what are your thoughts on being able to do both? And he said, to me, it's no big deal. He said, I'm the quarterback of the team. I have to do both. For us to win, I have to be able to throw the ball and pass the ball. He did things very well that night, and the Freeport Yellow Jackets are sitting at 7-2 right now. Drew Ross is a big reason for that.
That's a young team, too. I think they have 5 seniors, if I'm right. They didn't have many come to media day.
What's Amos Glenn?
He's a junior.
Drew Ross.
Junior.
Whatever. So that's my dream matchup. If John Gaylott and Joe Sherwin want to get together after the season, we could have a neutral site. We could play it at where are you playing the Turkey Bowl at?
Alameda.
Okay, we'll bring them down to Alameda. Karn City against Freeport for, we'll call it the
Butler Eagle Bowl.
The Pita Bowl.
The Pita Bowl. The Scoop Bowl.
That is it. Next week, Jake will be back with us, but he will be a changed man because he will be married.
Derek has told me he's going to Jake's wedding to yell, I object, and then he's just turning around and walking out. Be on the lookout, Jake.
You've been warned.
Alter Eagles Ion Sports Podcast would like to thank our sponsors, Butler County Chamber of Commerce, R.W. McDonald & Sons Incorporated, Robert Stevens Jewelers. We encourage you to subscribe to the Butler Eagle YouTube channel and Apple or Spotify podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Alter Eagle Podcast and at Butler Eagle News. Goodbye.